Chris, how pleased were you to kick away there at the end, because they were coming really hard, particularly at late in that third quarter and the start of that fourth quarter?
Yeah, they were. The last two goals of the third quarter obviously made it very interesting. But even before that, we knew that they weren't going to go away. They've just got too many quality players, and the way they play at the moment, they're just a consistent threat. They throw the ball around, which means that sometimes you're a chance if you pressure well enough, but it's a really fine margin, and when they get it through, then they're dangerous. So I don't think either team would have been going in thinking that the high-scoring game was what they were after necessarily, but it just became clear that you weren't going to be able to keep the other team to a really low score in the second half. So I suspect, I shouldn't speak for them, but at least our thinking was we needed to stay proactive and keep looking to score rather than shut the game down, because my guess is that if you try to do that for too long against them, they'll just find a way.
Would you have been able to do that? I mean, you both had a spare behind the ball for most of the first half and it was still high scoring. Would it have been possible?
No, I think that's my point. I think it would have been difficult, and the modern game is such that if you do try to shut it down too much, you can get sort of stuck in your back half, and the pressure builds, and that can work against lower quality opposition. But again, if you give them too many chances, with repeat stoppages, they're clearly the best forward 50 stoppage team in the comp. I'm not even sure that we're right, but our philosophy was we needed to put pressure on them the other way.
And in the second quarter in particular, it seemed like their pressure, you were able to pounce on their turnovers as well and score a lot of turnovers. Was that quite satisfying, that second quarter?
It's always, as I said, it's a fine margin, so it's not as if I thought they kicked it to us, but all I know is if you don't pressure them well and they're able to use the ball well, it's one of the reasons I think they're going to be a real handful at Marvel, because they use the ball so well in those perfect conditions. So the alternative is you sort of sit back a little bit and protect your defence, but as I said, then I think you get overwhelmed. So, I mean, it's hard to know exactly, because we tend to watch the game differently to even the way you guys watch it, I suspect, but my feeling was it was a pretty high quality game, two pretty good teams, and it would have been a good game to watch. And as I've said a few times, like, those good games to watch are horrendous days in the coach's box.
Bailey said after the game he was close to not playing. You mentioned his shin. What was the situation?
Bailey said that?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you know about that, Mac? It was obviously a very courageous effort for him to get to the line off the 5-day break. The fact that the coach and the GM of Footy didn't know about it probably suggests it wasn't that serious.
So there wasn't much to it. You said he had a shin problem, and he didn't train much during the week. Was it just getting him through to the game, and you were no issue that he was going to play from your perspective?
No, there was no issue in my mind, but again, maybe I don't always get all the information. I think it's one of those things, the 5-day break, it's not a huge issue, especially if there's relativity there, which there was, the Bulldogs coming off 5 as well. And my guess is it's a case of a lot of players go in a little bit sore. We don't play players when there's a risk there. This was one where it was just going to be a bit sore, but always confident that he was going to get through. I suspect that he would have played this game with a very serious injury if he was allowed. Like, he was really up for it.
Were you pleased with how it went, and were you a bit surprised with the lack of attention from the Bulldogs towards him throughout the game?
I tend to think in the modern era that attention, it depends exactly what you mean. Do you mean in terms of a tag, like a sort of...
A bit of both, like even the tag, and also just, they seem to let him run free and not really even, give him push and shove or anything.
Well, the first bit, that they don't tag, so I don't think that's a departure from the way they play, and not the worst strategy when you've got such quality in there. And I think the second bit, the push and shove, is a bit overrated, but it's not for me to tell the opposition how they should play. I thought he was outstanding, and I really admire those guys. I'm not sure that there are that many who genuinely want and crave that kind of attention and, you know, that pressure to perform, you know, in spite of all that attention. But he's certainly one of them.
Like Jeremy Cameron's up for it, or is he just hitting the sort of form you know he's capable of?
Bit of both. Yeah, he's in really good physical shape. It's probably the best pre-season that he's had in his time with us, so that no doubt that helped. I'm loath to go back to the last time we played them, but he was a bit disappointed with how we played and how he played in particular when we played the Dogs down here last year. So maybe that was part of it, but yeah, he's in a rich vein of form, that's for sure.
Chad Neal showed a lot. He was smart, late.
Yeah, he's got great potential, Shannon. He's a outstanding athlete. I hesitate to say unique because there are a lot of amazing athletes in the AFL at the moment, but track and field background, 4s and 8s, lightning quick, 203 centimetres, and a beautiful kick. But it's one thing being a nice technical kick, and it's another thing being able to deliver, you know, in the close games when you really need to. So it was, yeah, we've always been prepared to be patient with him, but I think we've moved past that stage where we're sort of easing him into our team. He's a pretty important part of what we do.